Hey everyone, it looks like we're now live, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to stall again just so that everybody can tune in. Okay, I'm Meg. I'm with, well, I kind of sort of go under the name Our Misadventures. I work as a social media manager and strategist for a few different bloggers and brands. And today I'm going to share with you how I use Buffer to manage Pinterest accounts for a lot of people. I went ahead and set up a little test account here so that you guys can kind of see things from the back end and stuff. Just want to stall a little bit longer. Okay, so right here is a blog post that Buffer put out when they announced that they're now partnered with Pinterest. And I'll link to this in the show notes after we're done broadcasting. They did a little scientific study, quote unquote, about how to strategize for pinning on Pinterest. And one of the key things that they found is that you need to pin every single day or your reach in the quote unquote smart feed goes down. So Pinterest is a whole lot like Facebook now in the sense that if you're not being active every day, you're taking a hit in the long run. So just like on our Facebook pages, we have to post at least one thing a day in order for people to continue to see our posts. It's the same thing on Pinterest now. And they found that the magic number for the minimum was 5 posts a day. And I'm not going to go into the whole science and strategy of pinning to Pinterest. I just wanted to explain that because that's why people need schedulers if they're using Pinterest for their brand, because not everybody can get on Pinterest every single day. And I know for me, it's a real pain, even though it's what I do. So I try to, at the beginning of the week, schedule, or even in the middle of the week, schedule at least 7 days worth of pins so that I'm not having to focus on it each and every day. Because if I'm having to focus on it each and every day, my mind goes numb. I get hungry because I'm looking at all kinds of photos of great recipes, and it doesn't sit well with me. But again, do whatever works best for you. I'm just here to show you how I use Buffer for Pinterest. Okay, so another thing to note is that Pinterest only has about 3 API partners, they're called, for scheduling to Pinterest. That's Buffer, which is the newbie, Tailwind, and Ahalogy. There's other services out there for scheduling that aren't API partners. A common one of those is Viral Tag. The reason I don't recommend using one of those services is because they often get flagged for spam if you're doing things like pinning the same pin over and over again to different boards. Like Pinterest is more likely to see that as a spam activity, like a bot, than it is with a scheduler that's one of their partners. So I wanted to get that out of the way first before I forgot to mention that. Okay, so the reason I use Buffer for doing all of my pin scheduling, the first thing was because I was able to do all of my social media in under one roof. Buffer originally came about to do Facebook and Twitter, and so now you're able to just do everything in one system, not having to change windows. Like if you have a brand new blog post, you don't need to flip around to 4 or 5 different services just to get it out there on all of your platforms, because Buffer does it all in one. Like you can see here, they have Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google business pages, and then the Pinterest, which is only under their paid accounts. I set this up as a team member account under my business account. So it's showing that I need to start a 7-day trial. So anyways, no matter what platform you're using, out of the top 5, you're able to schedule with Buffer. So it saves you a lot of time having it under one roof. The other reason was the ease. Here I am in my Pinterest account. I have the Buffer extension installed, and I also have the Pinterest extension installed. I'm using Chrome on a MacBook. And I'm able to completely do all of my pinning or my pin scheduling from Pinterest. I'm not having to go to websites or anything. I'm just clicking on this little extension button. And it pops up the Buffer window. I can click on the Pinterest account I want to pin to and select the board, and then I add it to the queue. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. I wanted to show you how Buffer works and what in the world the queue is. So in Buffer, there's two ways to schedule. You can either manually set the time each and every time you share something, or you can set up a schedule. And here's the one that I have set up for Whole New Mom. This is what I do every day. I have 25 posts scheduled, mostly focusing in the afternoons and evenings. And it's just kind of randomly spaced. I try not to schedule on the hour because people tend to schedule things on the hours or on the half hour, and I don't want things to get lost if there's a lot of pins going out at that time. And so I just have all of these just random times, well, somewhat random times in there. And then here's the content queue. So each pin is going into whatever is the next time slot. I'm able to drag and drop if I wanted something to go out before another item. So when I'm scheduling and I hit add to queue, it just automatically puts it there in the queue. I'm actually going to put this on a different board and hit add to queue. Oh, this is because I just set up this account. It's not going to be happening to you. So I hit go to Buffer, and here it is right at the end of the queue. So you can reorganize this if you want, or if you have a post that's going out the next morning and you want to get this scheduled ahead of time, you can switch it to a custom time and set it up like that. You can also, let me go to another pin. I'll schedule this one of Hillary's. Sorry, my internet gets a little slow when I'm doing a webinar. Pin that to Frugal. You can switch over to the Power Scheduler and set it to go out, every 7 days to that particular board, or every 8 hours or something like that if you really wanted to do it multiple times. But it goes out to the same board. So you would have to redo this for different boards if you wanted it to go at regular intervals to different boards. So that's how Buffer works with the queue. And it's the same way for whatever platform you're using. So if you're using Facebook or Twitter, that's how you add posts. So you can, not have to focus on, like when you're going into Facebook and having to type in, okay, this is going out at 8 a.m. and having to, refer to a chart or whatever for what times you want things to go out. You're able to do all of that within here. And like you can set it, like this one I have set to every day, but if you wanted extra times like on the weekend, you could just set up a schedule. Oops. New posting schedule. There we go. Now I know what I'm doing. You can set it for just every Sunday, every Saturday, and add extra posting times if you wanted to. So it automatically realizes that's every weekend. If I could throw in Tuesday, it says every Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. Let me check real quick and see if there's any questions. Oops, I don't think I turned on the... Okay, now the questions and answers app is open. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them. I'm going to have about a 10-second delay from when your question appears to me. So if it's an immediate question, I probably won't be able to stop in the middle of what I was saying about your question, but I will get to it. Okay, so let me look at my notes. Okay, so once you've figured out your schedule, I suggest, to refer to this post that I'm going to link you to set up your schedule and whatever works best for you. Once you have that going, it's time, to get pins in. So I already showed you the basics of how it works here in Pinterest, but I wanted to note you don't want to start scheduling pins within Pinterest that could be broken. Because, a lot of people don't double check if they're repinning from someone that they trust. And a quick trick to check to make sure something is pointing to what it says it is when someone has a rich pin set up for their website. Like Hillary has the Art of Thrift Shopping right there is the title of her blog post, and I can tell that this is a rich pin because all of this information right here only appears when it's a rich pin. So let me exit out. This pin isn't a rich pin. This one is, that one isn't. So you can see right here pretty easily which ones are correct and which ones aren't. And at a glance, you can see, okay, the title of this is correct. The website's correct. It matches that image. I would still, if it's a site that you're not familiar with, click over and make sure that that's a website that you want going out to your brand or whatever. But if it's someone you know, go ahead and, double check the rich pin info and schedule from there. And I'm not going to get into what rich pins are, but basically it's something that a website has to opt into for not Facebook, for Pinterest. So I'll link you guys up to that afterwards, a good post about what rich pins are and why you need them for your website. Because I'll be talking for forever if we've got into rich pins. Okay, so that's one quick way of figuring out, okay, is this something that's safe to repin other than just, clicking and opening up the website. You can also, you've noticed I keep opening up the pins to repin them. You can repin from the newsfeed right here by clicking on the button. It pulls up the same thing. There's just a little bug right now with the, or they might have resolved it before this went out, but sometimes it cuts off the URL. This time it didn't, but that's why I've gotten in the habit of opening up the pins and pinning from there, because in the feed view and in like an individual board view, like I'm going to click on this board. If I were to pin from here, it might do the same thing and cut things off. I'm trying to get it to do it so I can show you. Okay, it didn't, so maybe they have it fixed. But sometimes it cuts off the URL to just the .com and skips everything after it. And that's only happening when you're repinning from this kind of view and not from the individual pin like this. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. But it makes things a whole lot easier. Like say you have a group board with people in your tribe, like this group board looks like it's a small kind of blogger friend group. Say those are people that you always want to repin from. It makes it really fast to just go through the board and repin like this, or you can just open up one pin and repin an arrow over. It's so much easier than having to go to all of these individual sites and repinning from their website, or, because in Ahalogy, you have to repin from their content network. And Ahalogy, that's one of the other API partners. They have their browser applet thingy doesn't allow you to repin within Pinterest yet. I don't know if they're adding it or not. I haven't looked. But you have to, if you want to repin fast, it can only be from people that are using Ahalogy. So that's one of the downsides to their service. But when you pin stuff with Ahalogy, it goes into their network and their other members can repin from you. So it kind of is a trade-off. Like I've said, use whichever service works best for your workflow. I'm going to check real quick and see if there's any questions. Nope. Okay. So I've showed you how the rich pins work and how they make it easier to make sure that something is the correct pin. I showed you the little bug with pinning from just the board view. Now I want to show you, I want to take a leap outside of Pinterest, and I'm going to show you how to use Buffer to repin from websites. And there's 3 different ways. I'm going to show you my favorite way first, and then I'm going to show you the other 2 ways after that. Here's a new blog post on first aid for summer ailments. The first way I'm going to show you, I'm not going to click on the Buffer extension. I'm going to click on the Pinterest extension. And the reason I do that is because a lot of websites now are catching on to the fact that they can put pin text in their image titles and stuff so that the information is already in there for whoever's pinning directly from their website. And if you're not doing this for your website, you need to start doing that, because not only does it save time for the people visiting your site, but it gets keywords out there on pins that are happening from your site, so that you don't have to worry about readers who aren't putting in pin descriptions. Because believe me, there's a lot of people that are repinning on Pinterest and not editing the descriptions. And you don't want that going out from your website if it's just like the image title name. So like, say this image name is just summer ailments. Well, that's not an adequate pin description. Okay, so back on task. So I clicked this image to pin it, and I'm just going to randomly click on a board here. Instead of the pin it button, I'm going to click on the little buffer extension button. Now these extension buttons, I forgot to mention, they only appear when you have the buffer extension for your browser installed. So I'm going to click on Pinterest account and then the board, and do natural remedies, and just go add to queue. So the reason I do this method, I can't speak. This method is because it grabs all of that pin text that the website had for their image description. That's why this is my favorite method, because the other two methods, it only grabs the post title. I'm going to show you that now. So that's how you do it my favorite way. And now I'm going to show you the second way to do it. I'm mousing over the image right now. I can either click this blue share image button, or I can right click and click buffer this image. And see, it only grabbed the post title. This, I don't like it because of the fact that it doesn't grab whatever they had for the pin description. But this is the method I would do if you're on a website that doesn't add a pin description to their images. Because that way you get what the post is about, and then you can elaborate if you wanted to. And the third way, this is my least favorite way. I'm going up here to the top right of my screen and clicking on the browser extension. I'm just going to select a board, and now it's pulled up all of the images that were in that post. And the reason this is my least favorite is because it makes it really hard to see what the image size is. So unless you know ahead of time, okay, this is the correct image, you could be pinning something that's like way too small for Pinterest, because some blogs, they'll have a thumbnail and then a full-size image, and in this view, you can't see which one's the thumbnail and which one's the full size. So then you just select and then add to queue. Now what was it? Oh, and the other reason is because in the Pinterest one, it does give you the image sizes and stuff, and I really like that, because pinning like a small image like this one that's only 300 pixels, it shows up really tiny in Pinterest, and you don't want that to happen. Okay, so I have, how do you know for sure or not if your site does this or not? And Jen, I'm assuming you mean the pin description. And I believe, Jen, you use WordPress. For in WordPress, and Peggy, this is also going to answer your question, except you're on Blogger. In WordPress, the pin description, you would insert that when you go to add media in your blog post, and then it pops up that screen that shows the title, description, caption, and alt text. I put it in the title, description, and alt. I don't put it in caption, because then that pulls up in the blog post. But those three spots, the reason I do it in all three is because people have different browser plugins, and some for Pinterest, that is, and some will pull from the alt text, some will pull from the description. The other reason is if you're using a stock photo, a lot of photographers put their own description in. It's called metadata inside the image, and so you're overriding it with WordPress, because the worst thing, other than just the title going in, that I've seen is when people don't change a stock photo description that's been put in by the photographer, and they use that in their blog post. So they have these pins going out that have like the title and stuff like this picture, but instead of the description that they would have put in it had they have known about this, it's a description from whoever took the stock photos. So it could be, John Smith took this stock photo in Hawaii while he was on vacation. It's like, well, you don't want that going out to your viewers. You want, a description that's actually relevant to your blog post. So that's why, another reason why to do it. But the number one reason to do this is to get your keywords in. Because if your readers don't put in a description when they're pinning from their site, they're not going to put in keywords. And when people are searching Pinterest, the pins aren't going to come up. And then the other reason is, I'll show you with this one, Pinterest isn't going to have related pins and stuff. Like here it has links to other gluten-free recipes, apple recipes, and then down here it has related pins. So if you don't have those keywords in, you're missing out on all of these opportunities for people to find your pins and repin your pins. And not only that, Pinterest scores pins now on how well they're doing. So if a pin, doesn't have that good of a description, it's not going to be seen by that many people because people aren't interacting with it as much because they're not coming across it that much. Okay, so I got those two. Oh, and Blogger, for those of you who are on Blogger, I believe it's just, they only have the option for title. And I believe you have to click on the image after uploading it. I'll find that out for you and I'll post it on the webinar event page after we're done. I'll get the right information for you on how to do it with Blogger. Okay, so I'm gonna cancel out these questions real quick. Okay. So any questions about needing to go back to cover anything if I spoke too fast? Let me know, because I can always go back. Okay, I'll show you some more within Pinterest. So I wanted to say once again, I always pin from the pin image because it cuts out on that little bug that I was talking about with the URL getting cut off. And the one downside for me in my workflow is that it doesn't show which boards are group boards, because in Ahalogy it'll show like a little person right here to delineate if this were a group board or not. But what you can do, like Whole New Mom has done, she's renamed all of her boards that are hers in all caps. Usually when you rename a board name, if you change like even the spaces or something, that'll break any links going to your board. But if you only change the case, that won't break any links going to your boards. So she did that so that she can easily see, okay, that's one of my boards. These are other people's group boards and stuff like that. So I wanted to note that. And then also doesn't show secret boards. So if you're wanting to pin to secret boards, you're still going to have to use your Pinterest pin it button for your browser, whatever. But you really don't need to schedule things to secret boards anyways, because nobody can see them but the people that have access to that particular secret board. And those usually aren't time sensitive or anything. And then I also needed to note the queue here, when you have, because Pinterest is for their you have to pay for their beginner level account, which I believe is $10 to $12 a month. You can only schedule, I think it's 200 at a time. So if you wanted to schedule, 5 pins a day for a week, you can get the whole month out and not have to worry. But if you wanted to pin more than that, you will have to upgrade accounts. Most people, aren't going to need to do that. I had to do that. But if you use a referral link, like if somebody else sends you their buffer referral link, it gets you more than 200 items. Oh, you just saw a pin went out that was scheduled. It gets you more than 200 items that you can have scheduled at a time. So the last thing I wanted to show you was how I use this to save time when scheduling across multiple platforms. So say I wanted to share this on my Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest account. I'll just go ahead and, whatever image I want to share to that, I'll hit the share image button. I'll select, whatever accounts. And then up here in the top, this is the message that will go out to Twitter and Pinterest. And for Facebook, you have to write something different. This is because of Facebook's terms of use. They don't allow Buffer to auto-populate the information like it did up here. So you could just copy and paste this after you've finished writing it or whatever. So I usually, take away the site title and just write something else like, these are great for after our trip to the beach. And then leave in the URL, of course, because Twitter, you want people to be able to click on it to go to your site. And since this is a shared image and not a link, we need to leave it in for Facebook. But it will strip that once we add it to Pinterest. It's going to strip it in the Pinterest queue. So I'll show you right now. Add to queue. I'll scroll down here, and there we go. It deleted that URL right there. So you're able to get things across multiple platforms in half the time that it would normally take you because you're doing it all under one roof. And I could edit this and elaborate more if I wanted to, and it wouldn't affect what went out in the Twitter and Facebook feeds. So I'll show you those up here. On Facebook, it still has the URL. Twitter has both the image and the URL. So any more questions? I've pretty much covered the basics. I don't want to sign off without anyone getting a question in. Okay, Rita wants to know, when you schedule across multiple platforms, is each instance counted in the quota of scheduled buffer posts, or is a shared message counted as one? I believe it's counted as multiple because it is a different instance in like 3 different queues, like the one I did right now. I can't say for sure because ever since I started using Buffer, I had to pay for their unlimited account. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does count as a different instance in the quota. Any other questions? Oh, and there are analytics that are a little bit more involved than what you get with Pinterest. I don't want to go into those because this webinar will last for forever. But I say do their free trial for 7 days. And you'll be able to see in there if you like their analytics better than what Pinterest gives you. Because Pinterest, their analytics only give you like the total. They don't compare things week to week. They don't show you, this is performing better because it's getting more clicks. Whereas in Buffer, it gets you a lot more breakdown. And like in Facebook even, I know I'm not supposed to talk about Facebook because this is about Pinterest. It tells you a whole breakdown of your image posts are doing better than your link posts or your status updates, which within Facebook itself, it doesn't really do that in their insights. So that's the other reason I've switched all of my scheduling over to Buffer. And some people will still say that Facebook or Pinterest or whatever docks reach for accounts that are using third-party schedulers like this. That's not true anymore. At least with Facebook, that was true like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But these days, it doesn't dock people for using third-party schedulers. It docks people for having things that are overly promotional or not engaging. Both Facebook and Pinterest reward people for making engaging posts that aren't promotional. Okay, for Peggy wanted to know, she's scheduled to Facebook with Buffer and the URL didn't go with it. Well, that usually happens because you're doing share image and then selecting a Facebook page. When you do that, all that's going out is the image right here. Because the URL was up here and they don't allow Buffer to auto-populate that anymore. So you have to copy it before you select the Facebook page and paste it in. And then, type, okay, here's the URL. But that's when you're doing an image post. If you're doing just a link post, you would hit the buffer extension up here in the browser and then select the Facebook page. And so now it's giving a preview of the link like it would appear in Facebook. So you can, arrow over for the images, type in a different title if you wanted to, a different just link pin description, or not link pin, link preview description, and then whatever you wanted to say up here. So usually when that happens, it's because you were sharing an image instead of just a link. But with this, when you're sharing a link, it'll show as a link and not an image in Facebook. Okay, I'm going to give it about 1 more minute and then sign off. I am going to give you this link and my own buffer referral link. Even though it's a referral link, I don't get anything from it because I have to pay for the unlimited account, but you will get more space if you sign up with a referral link. So you might want to ask your friends if they have a referral link and help them get more space versus using mine, because it doesn't help me. But I'm sharing it for those of you who don't know anyone else who uses Buffer. And then I also wanted to mention, if you're signed up for my newsletter, this week I'm sending out a little checklist kind of a thing for bloggers that goes over, it's basically things that you need to cover to optimize your blog posts for social media, which also helps out with search engine optimization. Okay, well, I think that's it for questions. You can still contact me on the event page, or you can email me, meg@ourmissadventures.com, or facebook.com/ourmissadventures, or on Instagram. Just connect with me wherever you're comfortable, and I'll try to answer your questions or send you a link to something that explains whatever your problem is. Thanks for attending my webinar. Talk to you later.